Could we have asked for a more complete first 45 minutes?
Brilliant first 45 minutes. I think 82% possession, passed them to death. In the heat, we've seen the heat there with Alistair. What was it, 31.2 degrees?
Yeah.
Absolutely roastinho. And they've kept the ball and they've made West Ham work for everything. And, you know, I think they've been really good. Final third, still not clicking 100% yet. But the way that they're, you know, keeping possession, making the West Ham players work all over the pitch. Second half, they're bound to tire. I think the chances are going to come. But obviously the big man's turned up. Great little run. Gundogan, we mentioned it before. Nice little communication and understanding between them two. Good run. And there he is.
I mean, I'm just going to get a poster, stuck it on my wall or on the ceiling. Stay at it every time I go to bed. But I mean,
dreams.
I mean, the love on Twitter, your guys' response is just great. We had Joey on Twitter who said, I love the way Haaland is dropping in comfortably. We said, Declan Harris says, it's going to take Man City some time to mesh with Haaland, but they're already making progress since the Community Shield. Lord Morpheus, Haaland. At Mrinka TV, Haaland, welcome to the Premier League. First of many for Haaland from any football talk. Haaland opens the books. Nice to have a penalty taker too. That's from W. Shep. Let's just focus on this man for a second and the penalty, because you mentioned it, Trevor, as well. The minute he went down, he was already grabbing the ball. It was kind of that confidence we were speaking about before the show, Shaun. And what a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a perfect penalty. It just nicks the post and goes in. You can't get it any better than that. Right in the corner. Keeper has absolutely no chance. Again, what I like was the fact that he's grabbing the ball. He's made a decision that I'm challenging anyone who takes penalties at the club. I want to take penalties. He's grabbed it. It's fortunate that Mahrez isn't on, because he's going straight on and went, I want that ball. I want the penalty. And you can't argue with it. He's put it away beautifully. I like the fact that it's that link up with Gundogan, who's, you know, it was periods in the first half where I thought we was moving it a bit slow, but we forget the heat. It is really hot out there. And, you know, we're sort of passing to death with the passes. Gundo gets in that little hole, gets in the pocket. And when he slides that little ball, he makes the run. He's so confident that he knows he needs to get that yards. He's not even actually he looks, and then he just goes, and the ball just appears in front of him. And that's where I said, like, having that communication and knowing when to make certain runs with certain players. He knows Gundo is a player that he can make a run off. De Bruyne is another one. Foden. He starts to know these players. He'll just get fed.
Gundogan actually plays the ball to where Ben Johnson is, because he thinks he's playing it slightly left. So Ben Johnson moves out and creates that passing lane for him. So, again, we talk about IQ of players. Gundogan, he's right up there with the best of them. He plays it where the defender was, because he knows that he's going to try and anticipate that one. And he's played it straight. Perfect. Great turn of pace by Haaland. I thought, is he going to get there? Bang. Got there before Areola. Penalty. And like you said, picked the ball up. I'm taking this. He was very blinkered. I don't even think he had eye contact with any of his teammates. He picked the ball up and just walked over to the spot. And everyone, you know what, Kevin, Gundogan would say, listen, he's won the foul, let him take responsibility. He's obviously not a shrinking violet, and I'd love to see that. 22 years old, big future.
What do you think is we can see his dad there, Shaun? What we're checking his dad saying or thinking about there? Are we saying he should be doing better, or would you reckon he'll be happy?
Nice one, son. Go on.
And sorry, Shaun, I wanted to ask, it's a very obvious question, this, but, you know, getting the goal in pre-season, but one shot on target as well. First shot, you're claiming the penalty along in front of a Kevin De Bruyne. What does that do for a striker arriving at a club? You've been in that position many times.
It just shows his confidence. It also shows his own expectation. Yes, there's expectation, as in there's noise around, you know, supporters and everyone else that are watch Man City. But he's got his own expectations, and that tells me right there that he wants to be up amongst the top goal scorers. The fact he's grabbing the ball, he's not settling in and saying, well, let me just see who's taking pens, you know, waiting for someone to say, you have it. He's grabbed the ball and saying, I want this.
It's almost an unwritten rule, isn't it? If you get fouled as a striker in a game and you win a penalty, you've got every right to want to take that. And he's took the onus, and he's finished it so clinically, which we expect. But we have had our differences with penalty takers over the time. But the way that he dispatched that, he's kind of saying, you know what, I'm here. If you want a penalty taker, give it to me. And that's what goal scorers do. They score penalties as well. And if that gives him an extra 8-10 goals a season, happy days.
The great thing as well about it is because you got somebody that's saying, hey, I want to be a part of the penalty takers. We know that Mahrez takes penalties. Sterling's someone that's left, that was taken and started to get good at taking penalties. It's great to see that there's another name that could be put to that list to say, okay, here's your list of penalty takers. Because everyone studies and watches, you know, his first penalty, they know where he's going. He steps up for another penalty. What you have to be adaptable now is you've got to be able to go left, right, and centre. So I think it's great that he's put himself amongst the penalty takers so that I can see rotation with penalty takers.
Yeah, moving it around
well.
that. Yeah, and just keep the opponent guessing.
Yeah.
We've been mentioning a few players throughout that first half performance. One man who I felt you could see was really trying to look for him was who we spoke about again before the show, Jack Grealish. And I think he's having a great time again. I think he's given their fullback a nightmare. Another kind of convincing 45 minutes.
Yeah, really good. He looks fit, doesn't he? He looks fit. He looks ready. He looks like he feels part of it now. Last season at times you thought he always felt like a little bit of an outsider, the newcomer, the last one in. Now he looks like he feels part of it and he's taking that responsibility. I think him and Cancelo linked up really well. He's always looking for Haaland because West Ham are playing a deep block. They're very tightly knitted, the back 4, 5, whatever it is at the moment in the midfield. So it's been difficult for him to get that link up, but you can see he's always looking to feed the ball into Haaland. And when Haaland's had it to feet, he's looked sharp. His left foot, his little passing passages of play. Been really impressed with him his whole play.
Well, there was the 1-2, wasn't there, before, which was the disallowed goal, which Kevin De Bruyne did dispatch. Gundogan was offside, but actually you were saying what the flick should have been left for. Grealish,
yeah.
Would have been in the back of the net.
And listen, that can happen. Maybe a little bit more communication. And again, they'll come back in on Monday, they'll have a look at the footage, and they'll talk through that and say, in that case, you just let the ball go. And they'll learn from it because, again, new players coming in, different patterns of play, slightly different passages of play, and they all have to get used to each other. But I think we can see the evidence from last week against Liverpool to this week. There's been a lot of progress done already.
Yeah. On the other side of the pitch, only because we were watching some filthy things going down on that right-hand side, Phil Foden.
Yeah, Foden.
He doesn't...
I'm so glad you're raising it because, some of his touches have just been, absolutely remarkable. His ability, how he controls the ball, balls that get put into him, he just kills it there. He's going inside, he's going outside.
You feel for the fullbacks, don't you?
You do. On a hot day, your first games of the season, they are really difficult and challenging.
Yes.
And Foden has been doing absolutely brilliant. Yeah,
Foden is the man. I think in them first 45 minutes we probably could be singling out most of them, but I guess just collectively as a team performance, seeing what we saw at Liverpool, that's the City we're used to seeing. And what's frightening, I guess, Trevor, is as we know, they're still only just finding their rhythm.
Yeah, they've only had, 3-4 weeks together.
Yeah.
Pre-season's been very shortened this term because of going deep into the Champions League and everything else. But I think as a whole, if you have 82% possession, the other team's grafted. And I've said it before, when you're out of possession in that kind of heat, if you're chasing shadows, it's so disheartening as a footballer, as a team, individually, collectively, and City will just keep on doing that. And then you've got Cancelo flicking it over people's head. I'm just thinking, I don't want that ball next because you're going to get clumped.
I know, that was an outrageous chip. What's David Moyes saying then, Shaun? How do West Ham, because it is only 1-0, and I'm sure when I ask what do we need in the second half, we want a 2-goal cushion, but West Ham, how will they combat what they've just...
Well, that's exactly what he says to keep West Ham going is, listen, it's only 1-0. Stay in this game because we will have a chance. We will have opportunity. We will have a 5-minute, 10-minute spell. and we can get and turn you in the game. We can get Bowen down the side or in behind. I think those will be the messages. So from our point of view, as brilliant as it's been, 1,000 passes at one point, we've seen like we pass them to death with the number of passes, we need that second goal. Getting that second goal really just kills West Ham off. So from their point of view, they will still be, it's okay, they've had a lot of possession, but we just need that one opportunity, that one
still in the game, aren't they? If you get the ball into Antonio Diaz, has he been booked yet? He's nearly on a booking, so get it into Diaz, get it into anywhere around Cancelo, because he took a silly booking, really. He'll be disappointed, and I'm sure his manager will be disappointed with that booking, a bit of dissent to the linesman. But get it into them areas, front them players up, one-on-one situations. You've got to have quality and be brave on the ball when you win it back against City, because you're only having 18% to play, so you must make it worthwhile.
And for City then, as we said, we can't really knock that 45 minutes, but if we are going to improve, or if we do want to get maybe that second or third goal, how could you see it maybe changing, or would they go about it, Shaun?
Well, I can see us continuing doing the same thing, but I would also think that, the Gundogan runs in between defences creates those opportunities for strikers. So him making a run in between the centre halves and the fullbacks, if he's receiving it and then he's able to put it back across, or whether he's able to control it to then pull it back to oncoming players, I think that also creates spaces for centre forward.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important part.
The switch of play is on as well, isn't it? If you keep on doing, as they're getting more tired, you know, they come across to try and make it all compact. If you can get that switch of play, there's going to be a lot more space for Foden and for Grealish to then have one-on-ones and get to the byline and see if they can create chances that way.
Yeah.
There was an interesting point. One of the greatest things that I do as well is when I get to watch games, you know, with you guys, is, you know, little kind of bits that I may miss. And you mentioned actually seeing how dry the pitch was, and that the ball is kind of moving slower than what we'd be used to seeing it. Yeah, which does make a difference.
It does make a difference, yeah, because the ball is so consistent when it's the slippery surface. The drier the pitch is, it's a little bit more inconsistent. You can bobble, you can get stuck on all the new boots and the material of the ball. And we heard, you know, and people will laugh at it, but Klopp was saying it yesterday. It did affect the way that Liverpool played against Fulham. But listen, you're in London. There's only a certain amount of water you can put on a pitch. It's 30-odd degrees, so it's going to dry out very quickly. Hopefully they'll be watering it at half-time. Maybe they won't, maybe they will. I think West Ham are a good football inside as well, and that's what their principles are. So they should want the pitch to be watered so they can play their football as well. Yeah,
I believe as well, actually, we've just, someone pitch side said they were actually talking about the higher-lower game there. Alfie Haaland wanted to have it a little go, I think. So, Alfie, if you do want to come and give the game a little go, we can do. I mean, so our predictions are still on. Can you still see it playing out that way, Shaun, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think we need to get that second goal that can really kill it, because I think more spaces will open up because they will come out. It's interesting to see whether or not they try to push up higher, because again, I think that would be a bad call, because again, that will leave the spacing behind. So they've got a few problems. But
that's the problems you have, isn't it? If you sit deep, you might not concede, but then when you win the ball back, you've got so far to go to the opposite goal. And then if you try and be a bit higher, then you've got, hopefully, Areola can be a lot on his toes and ready to play keeper sweeper and then build from there, and you're a little bit close to goal. So it's one of them. But I would expect to see Skamaka just for the home fans to give him something to cheer about the new signing.
Be interesting to see what he's saying. And well, if we're looking at our bench, who would you be excited to see? I mean, I know you were marking Alvarez in the show before the game. Would we return to him? I wouldn't mind seeing Phillips as well, maybe coming on to steady the ship when
I think this would be a great game for Phillips to come in, only because of how the game is going in terms of the ball just being transition. And because of the way City play, wherever the ball is, can we immediately win it back? So it would be an ideal game for him to come in. I also think with Alvarez, because we're talking about little pockets, he's you know, typical Argentinian. They can find those loose spaces, little pockets. So it'd be interesting to see if he got a good 20 minutes and what he can do if he came on as well.
Indeed, gents. Always an absolute pleasure. So we're going to be back at full time. The score is 1-0. That man right there making his Premier League debut, Erling Haaland, much anticipated. Well, it's definitely lived up to those expectations, and fingers crossed there'll be a couple more. And also from a fantasy football, a Kevin De Bruyne brace would be lovely. We'll take that. Trev, Shaun, thank you. The boys are just about to come into the tunnel, so I'm going to hand back over to Alistair Mann, and we'll see you at full time. Come on, City.
Well, thank you, Kel. Players in the tunnel, the City players anyway. Pep Guardiola just walking beyond them, just stopping to have a quick word with Jack Grealish. A quite brilliant first half display. And if you like your statistics,